Welcome into the Gatemen Pregame Show here on the Gatemen Baseball Network. Wareham playing host to West Division rivals the Bourne Braves tonight. Alongside me is Henrique DaMour and our very special guest, the leader of these young men, the proverbial William Wallace of the Wareham Gatemen, Coach Don Sneddon. Coach, how are you today?
Never been called that before. That's good.
Well, maybe that might stick. You never know.
Yeah, it might be.
You never know. Nice bounce-back win for you guys yesterday after a tough one in Brewster. What was working for the Bats last night?
Well, it really just came around. I think the pitching. Pitching set the tone and kept them to a run. And that you hitters basically they do better when we get off the field. Even though that game seemed like it took an eternity to go, you like a fast-paced type of thing. And our pitchers, when they do that, we play better defensively and offensively. And we got a couple timely hits last night.
And it was kind of a weird night offensively from the fact that Austin Wood had some swing and miss stuff, had 7 straight strikeouts at one point, but you guys still managed to put a tag on him during the game. What adjustments did the guys have to make?
Well, all of a sudden he got hot getting his breaking ball open, and we just didn't hit it. And we had trouble seeing the ball. It was a tough ballpark. All the hitters are complaining, and we don't use umpires as an excuse, but he's just say that umpire had a very liberal zone, if you will, and that distracted our hitters a lot. They have to learn to adjust, and that was a tough one to adjust to. So all those factors put into it, we were lucky to walk away with a win.
And despite an offense that has been, like in Brewster, it seemed like they did just enough to back up an outing like Ryan Garcia's, and then also Derek West, obviously a great outing. How important is it to have, like you said, the offense plays better when you get good stuff from your starters? How important has that been to get the offense going early?
Well, it does help a lot. Again, it takes a little pressure off the pitchers. They can get into rhythm a little bit more. This game is all about rhythms, and you can't let their pitcher get into rhythm like we did when he struck out 7 guys. And you can disrupt that with anything from like stealing a base, getting hit by a pitch, a walk. It doesn't always have to be with a base hit. But when they get going like that, it's tough to stop them, and you got to find a way.
And going forward, we just got the news that Ken Waldachuk hit his innings limits, so he's not around anymore. That's one more starting arm diminished. So, we had a bullpen game a few days ago. It was the first time you had done that. Do you see more of that going forward, or do you see some guys like maybe Easton Lucas, who are traditionally long relievers, stepping up and being starters?
Well, you'll see both. We're playing YD down there. That looks like that's going to be a pin day, an off day. And we're going to ask more innings from our pins. They're going to have to do that, and they're all in favor of that. That's why we've had them around, and we're going to need those 16 pitchers to advance forward in the playoffs. You're going to need every one of those guys.
And to kind of build off that point from Henrique, with guys hitting their inning limits, we've lost a couple this month. Where do you guys look for replacements, and how much do you know about these guys when they're coming in?
Well, it's you don't. It's basically give Andrew Lang, our GM, all the credit for that. He's looking in all the leagues because leagues need to end for them to be released. There's just not free agents floating around that can come in and pitch 1 week or 2 weeks. So it's a very difficult thing, and that's probably the one thing that I dislike about the Cape at the end is people leaving early, and you got to basically get another whole new team. And so the team that you have at the beginning is not even close to the team you have at the end.
And before you guys even get to the playoffs, you got some big games coming up. A lot of the rest of the way is against the Western Division.
Right.
What do you guys need to focus on to stay hot going into the playoffs?
Well, we play mainly our division, so every win's going to be important. But the other teams are somewhat in the same boat that like we are. We've lost a lot in that one day. Cavalli, goes down, and then we don't get, a couple other guys got hurt, and Gino goes down with a bad leg, and then, of course, when we go forward, Packard, we're just happy he's healthy or somewhat healthy and going home. We were really counting on him. He's a team leader and a great hitter, but he caught something coming back from Cuba. Still don't know what that is, and he's still not even close to being 100%. Lost 15 pounds in a short amount of time. So we're gonna have to find it. Other guys are gonna pick everybody up.
That's going to do it for us here with head coach Don Sneddon. Don, thanks so much for joining us. Now we're going to throw it on to Get on the Beat with our beat writer, Ian Visera. I'm now here with our beat writer, Ian Visera, for today's edition of Get on the Beat. Ian, big news coming out of the Gatemen today. Ken Waldachuk no longer with the team, has hit his innings limit. What is that going to mean for the pitching staff going forward?
Well, Cam, it's going to mean that the next guy is just going to have to step up. Whoever that happens to be, we might see some additions because, they're a roster spot down, so you could see a pitcher added over this next couple weeks. But it's just going to have to be guys like Proctor going tonight. What we saw last night from Derek West, very encouraging start. Tyler Kaiser, so just going to be the next man up mentality, and it's going to be interesting to see because we've already lost so many good pitchers from this team, whether it's Lund or Matulovic, just going down the line, Fioli, so just next man up mentality.
We heard from Don Sneddon earlier, more bullpen days going forward for the Gatemen. I've only seen a couple of those this year. How does that work for a team's chemistry to throw in some more bullpen days and not have more of a set rotation?
Well, something that can do, if they're pitching well, it can boost their confidence up. Something I talked about with manager Don Sneddon last night after the game was 2 big innings from Cody Carroll to close out the game. And he's been a guy who's kind of been up and down this season. He's had, a good outing here and then a bad outing there. So for him to go and throw 2 scoreless innings, especially when you're trying to make a playoff push here, that's going to be huge. And it's going to be guys like that who, maybe we haven't seen of a ton this season, but also guys like Ryan Stoudemire, Zach Hart, just everyone in that bullpen really is going to have to contribute if they want to make a run at this thing.
Now, you mentioned the playoff push, only a couple of weeks left in the season. What are the Gatemen going to have to focus on to try and get to that top spot in the West Division that they're only 1 point back of right now?
Well, Cam, as much as we've talked about the pitching, I think it's going to have to be the hitting. Something that we've talked about, especially with guys like Packard not being back, unfortunately, Stott gone, Vaughn gone, just the lack of extra base hits. I think these guys are really going to have to figure it out and drive the ball because singles aren't going to win you games in the playoffs. You're going to need some doubles. You're going to need some homers. So these guys are really going to have to find their extra base stroke because I think the pitching is really holding up for what it is. Over the past week, I believe it was, team had roughly a 3.33 ERA. So, the pitching's holding up, given what guys you have left. So I think that's going to be fine, but it's going to have to be the hitting. You're going to have to get contributions 1 through 9, especially if you don't have Brian Packard back.
Now, we're already seeing some of the playoff teams get solidified. YD has clinched a spot. Gatemen aren't too far away from clinching a playoff spot. Those teams both in the top 2 of their divisions. Is there a dark horse that you're looking at going into this postseason saying, hey, this team can mess around and win it all?
Well, I don't know if they're really dark horses now because I think the league's on notice at this point. But if you look over in the East, I'd say the Chatham Anglers, just because they've put up some big offensive run totals the past couple days. And then over in the West, with what we've seen with the Falmouth Commodores, just outstanding pitching. The other night we saw them really shut down the Gatemen lineup. Tyler Dyson, and he's basically their 4th starter at this point. That rotation is just so deep. So it wouldn't surprise anyone, I think, at this point if Falmouth made a deep run at this thing. But also, again, the tops in the divisions, the Hyannises, the YDs, those teams are going to make big playoff pushes as well, in addition to, our Wareham Gatemen.
So you heard it here first, who to look out for going into the postseason just a couple of weeks away. He's Ian Becerra. I'm Cameron Stuart. That's going to do it for Get on the Beat here for us today on the Gatemen Baseball Network.
Thanks, guys. I'm here with Austin Shenton. Now, Austin, you're in the All-Star game this weekend. How are you feeling about it?
I'm feeling good. I'm excited to go out and participate in the All-Star game for sure.
What are you most looking forward to on Sunday?
I don't know. I'm just honored to be in it, first off, and then just be around a lot of great baseball players that, I'm sure I'll be watching on TV or hopefully playing against someday, and just honored and extremely grateful for the opportunity.
And there are 3 Gatemen players in the starting lineup. What does that mean for this organization?
I think it just means that pick some good players, and I think we've performed well this far in the season and hoping to finish strong as a group. And I know us 3, Sahid and Jeremy, they're great baseball players, and I'm excited for them, and wish them all the best at the All-Star game.
And going forward into the rest of the season, we're in the last stretch. What are some of your personal goals?
I don't know, just finish strong. Just mentally, just day to day. Just finish strong and be, don't take any at bat off, and just stick to my approach every single at bat, every single game, every single pitch.
And what are some of the goals of the team?
Obviously, just win the whole thing. Finish strong, win the whole entire league.
Okay, and now time for an interesting question. I asked Will Proctor this, and he didn't give the best answer. If you had a pony, what would you name it?
Don Sneddon.
Okay, that's a much better answer. All right, I'm Mary Orders here with Austin Shenton. After the break, we'll have more from the Gatemen Baseball Network.
Welcome back into the Gatemen Pregame Show here on the Gatemen Baseball Network alongside me, Henrique, DaMour, and JD Raucci, ready to break down the pitching matchup for tonight. And for Bourne, it's the right-hander who has struggled all season, but especially against these Wareham Gatemen. Brian Hoeing out of Louisville. What do we know about him?
So Hoeing, he actually did get off to an okay start this year. He went 7 innings total over his first 2 starts, gave up just 1 earned run, but then since then, like you said, Cam, he's been lit up, giving up at least 3 earned runs in his last 3 starts, 5 in his last 2 each. And one of those was against the Wareham Gatemen, that 13-1 win where the Gatemen blew out Bourne on their home turf. He gave up 7 runs, 5 of them earned. The strikeout stuff has been there for him. In his 21 innings of work, he has 21 strikeouts, 9 walks. That's all right, but it's the 22 hits as well. Guys have he's been leaving stuff in the zone, leaving stuff up in the zone, and hitters have taken advantage of it. Wareham took advantage of it in a big, big way, obviously, in that blowout win. And coming off a nice win against a really even more dominant Harwich pitching staff, in which Austin Wood, a weird outing for him yesterday against Harwich, saw the Gatemen get struck out 7 times in a row, but also saw them take advantage of the free base runners that he was giving up and hitting guys into scoring position and out of scoring position, taking an early lead. The bats fell silent late, but it was enough as the Gatemen got off to. They got the win at Harwich is what I'm trying to say, but they're trying to do the same thing against Bourne here. And Bourne as a team that are tail spinning really, really hard right now. They've lost 7 of their last 8 and have only won 3 out of their last 10 games. It's been a tough stretch for them, but Hoeing is the guy that they're going to try to get to right the ship here, but it's been a really rough stretch the last few games for him.
So they turn to Hoeing to try and end that skid that you were talking about, whereas the Gatemen, trying to win their second in a row, go to a guy who we think probably should have been an all-star this year in Will Proctor.
Well, he's old, reliable, Cam. The guy just comes out and has a good, solid pitching performance every time out. Last 2 outings, one against Scituate, one against Falmouth. He's gone 5 innings, given up just 9 hits, only 1 run in each of those games. He was absolutely fantastic the last time out against Scituate. By far his most impressive start of the season, giving up only 2 hits in that game when going 5 innings and giving up just a run. He has been absolutely reliable the entire season, and we've really start to see him over the last couple of outings. He's really started to go a little bit longer. I mentioned 5 innings the last 2 times out. For a guy that's just coming off a sophomore year, that was his first year as a full-time pitcher for Georgia. After his freshman year, he was a full-time infielder. He's a converted infielder, so him going 5 innings is going to be crucial today. Him going a decent distance into this game is going to be crucial because, as you guys talked about with head coach Don Sneddon, this the Gatemen pitching staff is starting to lose arms. They're starting to lose the likes of Ken Waldachuk. We saw Connor Lunn left a couple of weeks ago. So there's less and less guys in the bullpen. It's a thinner and thinner rotation behind the starting pitchers for them to get to. So now the starters, there's a little bit extra added pressure on top of them. They have got to go long. They have got to be consistent, and they have got to produce. And Will Proctor's the perfect guy to go to. He's not going to blow you away with anything special. The breaking ball is his best pitch. Both of his breaking pitches are absolutely fantastic. The key for him, as it is every time he steps to the mound, is going to be the fastball. The fastball has to be there. He has to command the strike zone, and he has to throw it for strikes early. Otherwise, it could be a long outing for him. We haven't seen a really bad outing for him since the 17-4 win against Hyannis, when he went 3 innings and gave up 4 runs. The last 2 outings, like I said, have been really great. So if we see more of that from him tonight, then the Gatemen should be in a perfect spot against a Bourne team, as you mentioned, Henrique, is really starting to sputter. So if they can't put up runs and Will Proctor does a good job, this Gatemen team is coming in a little bit cold after the 2 losses a couple of days ago, and then but like you said, the bounce-back win yesterday against Harwich, if they can get a good start at Will Proctor, they should be just fine today.
So Will Proctor looks to continue his stellar first half of the season, if you can even call it that. We're obviously well past the halfway point, but the All-Star game coming up this weekend. He got to catch up with our Mariotas earlier today to talk about tonight's start.
Thanks, guys. I'm here with tonight's starter, Will Proctor. Now, Will, you went 5 innings your last outing, and you kind of had to work for those innings. For sure. Can you tell me what you're going to try to do today to make the innings shorter?
Definitely work down in the zone. I mean, I was getting behind the guys, and it's a bad combination if I'm living up in the zone and working behind. It's kind of a good that's gonna get hit. So definitely work down.
Are there certain pitches that you're going to try to throw to help with that?
I mentioned last time a lot more changeups to righties, and I had some success with that, especially when I was 2-0, 3-1 count. So going to try that again.
And your guys' rotation is getting smaller with Cade, Matulovic, and Lunn leaving. What are guys going to have to do to try to step up?
And Ken Waldachuk. So I guess everybody's just going to get their opportunity, and it's about getting better and kind of stepping up into roles that are unfilled. So that should help us for sure.
And how does it feel to be a steady guy? You and Ryan Garcia have kind of been here through the whole season. Yeah. Are you trying to help out the other guys? Yeah, for sure. My goal coming in was to start and show my coaches back at school that I can start and get better. So it's definitely been cool to be able to do that throughout the whole summer. Now we're going to have some fun questions. Yeah. First, if you had a pony, what would you name it? I'd probably go simple and be Pony. That's no fun. But lame. You didn't give me time to think. I'd go Pony. Okay. I'd call him Pony. I guess that's cool. Do you have any fun facts about yourself? Yes, I was on a toy Nerf gun box, and it was in every Target in the United States, so that was fun. Are you still getting paid for it? No. Did you make any money from it? Maybe a couple $100 in an experience of a lifetime. Did you get free Nerf gun stuff? I got one free Nerf gun. Only one? I feel like you should get more than that.
No, I wasn't that big time.
Okay, if you had an ideal location for your house when you grow up, where would it be and why?
Manhattan Beach, California, where I grew up. That's my favorite place in the world, and I miss it like crazy, being in Georgia all the time. I never get to go back.
Are you going to be able to go home at the end of this summer?
No.
Okay,
Probably
well,
not, which is a bummer.
Soon. Thanksgiving, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Would you want a beach house or just
That's
a house?
the plan. Those run up there in price, though, so hopefully I can afford it if I pitch well today. Maybe that'll help.
Yeah, just if you pitch well today.
Exactly.
Well, Will, thanks so much. I'm Mary Orders.
I'm Will Proctor, and we'll be right back with more baseball.
Clobbered high and deep to right center field, and this one is gone. A home run.
Eastern Propane and Oil is the Wareham Gatemen home run sponsor. Each time a home run is hit by a Gatemen player, Eastern Propane and Oil donates a camp scholarship to a deserving youth. Eastern Propane and Oil, we're in your neighborhood.
Welcome back in here at Spillane Field for the Gatemen pregame show. We're about ready to get started in a little less than an hour now till game time between the Wareham Gatemen and the Bourne Braves. But gentlemen, first we've got to do our final segment here, keys to the game. Henrique, what do you got?
Early offensive production, and I think that it kept them in the game against Brewster, and really it was the pitching that melted down, but the offense did enough and took advantage of free base runners. Brewster committed 5 errors, and then there was a recipe for success against Harwich as well. Like Don Sneddon said, the pitching set the tone, absolutely, but then on the flip side of that, the Gatemen answered with a lot of runs, and they didn't give up given the fact that they were struck out 7 times in a row. That's pretty deflating, but the Gatemen bounced back. They kept trusting their stuff. They didn't focus on, they were sitting fastball because like Don said, Wood was able to get his breaking ball over, but they were patient. They worked their at-bats. Even a guy that we, saw, Lyle Lockhart, even though he's been struggling, he worked a very good at-bat. So we saw a lot of positives, even though the Gatemen really, they had the Harwich Mariners had their number at one point. But they produced enough. The pitching was solid, but I want to see more early offensive production because the Gatemen throughout the season have been their best when they've been working with leads early. Sometimes, if the bullpen has melted down, games get a little closer than maybe we would like at the end, but usually the offense does enough early, and the Gatemen can coast to victories. I think we saw earlier in the year, I forget what the number is at now, but earlier in the year there was a statistics that when the Gatemen scored first, they had a record of some 10 games over 500. They'd won 10 more games than they lost, and when they were trailing, it was quite the opposite. So that has been a key all game, and I think given the success we saw in that vein against Harwich yesterday, that's what I want to see.
So the Gatemen need to jump out in front early. JD, I know you're harping in on the offense too. What do they need to do a little bit more specific?
Well, for me, it's going to be Lyle Lockhart and Pavin Parks. They're going to be integral to the success of the Gatemen today. You look at them, they continue to slide down in the bottom of the order. For a long time before Lyle Lockhart went out with that injury in his throwing arm after pitching last week against Chatham, he was in the 4 hole of this lineup. He was the cleanup hitter. He and Pavin Parks are now in the 6 and 7 holes respectively. Lyle Lockhart, then Pavin Parks. I think they both need to step up for a team that is seriously lacking pop in the offense. There haven't been that many extra base hits, one of your favorite terms, station-to-station baseball. That's how the Gatemen have been playing it of late. You've seen a couple of doubles mixed in every once in a while, but a lot of it's single, falls in front of an outfielder, just gets under the glove of an infielder. I'd like to see a little bit more pop out of this lineup, some more extra base hits and some more big hits, which is something we've talked about all season long for the Gatemen. Now that you know Bryant Packard isn't coming back, and you already knew Andrew Vaughn and Bryson Stott weren't going to come back, 2 other guys with power, you've got to look to the guys like Pavin Parks, like Lyle Lockhart, who have that big, bulky frame. They have a lot of muscle behind that swing, and you need to have them hitting for extra bases because right now, your best extra base hitter is a guy that was your leadoff hitter for a long time this season in Jeremy Idens, and he's in the 4 hole today. He's been in the 4 hole a lot lately. So if you can get some more production out of the bottom tier of that lineup and out of guys like Parks and Lockhart, both of whom have put some good swings on the ball over the last few days, it just hasn't fallen for them. If they can put together some doubles, maybe some home runs or something with a little extra pop to it, then this Gatemen offense is really going to be rejuvenated through that. Because I think when guys like that, guys that might be struggling a little bit over the last couple of games, when they get going, everybody else in the lineup feels a little bit better, and the whole offense just becomes a little bit more cohesive and really gets ready to go and is ready to contribute at-bat in and at-bat out. So Lyle Lockhart and Pavin Parks are my key to the game today. Those guys, we need to see a little bit more pop out of their bats in the next couple of days.
So, like Garth Brooks, the Wareham Gatemen need some friends in low places in the batting order, that is, here on Country Night from Spillane Field. For Henrique DaMour and JD Raucci, that's going to do it for us here on the Gatemen pregame show. We've got your Wareham Gatemen against the Bourne Braves coming up here on the Gatemen Baseball Network.